You want the mic?
Please.
We can do that. Whoa, now I came in. I'm Dr. Donna Campbell. Thank you for having, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this debate tonight. I've been, in this election, I've been through about 40, can you hear me? In this election, I've been through about 40 debates and forums, and this is the 5th time with Mr. Courage, the actual 4th debate. And so thank you for having this and coming out. A little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a wife, mother of 4, an emergency room doctor that travels around to work different parts of the state. I'm also boarded in ophthalmology, and from 93 to 2000, I traveled to Ghana, West Africa, where I've done hundreds of eye surgeries. I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God, and I'm guided by my faith. When asked, some folks have said, and you may be wondering, well, why would I be running for a political office when I've got a perfectly good job? Well, sometimes I say I have to get a government job to get the government out of my job. But I think like a lot of Texans, we've seen the government grow too big. And I'm conservative. And I would like to, families and businesses need conservative legislation because a smaller government, I believe, helps make our society thrive. I am interested in bringing in or impacting the issues that I believe are important to our district, which are transportation, education, water. We've got to bring it in under a budget to keep our economy strong, and we need to look at the health care that's looming. Thank you so much. I look forward to answering your questions.
And now John Courage.
Good evening. My name's John Courage, and I want to be your next Texas Senator. And I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with all of you today. I'm a teacher, and I have been for 21 years in San Antonio. I'm also an Air Force veteran. I've lived in this district, in the 25th Senatorial District, for 25 years. I've lived here, I've worked here, and I've raised my family here. We've played here, we've prayed here, we've paid taxes in this district, and I've buried friends and family members in our district. And I know a lot of the concerns and share a lot of the concerns and interests that many of you have. And that's why I'm running to be your senator, because I think I can better understand your interests and concerns and represent you well in Austin. Now, in case any of you didn't hear, today I was endorsed by the San Antonio Express News as the right candidate for this position as senator for our district. And I think that that's important because it shows that people besides those who are active in our campaigns recognize that I have the ability, the capability, the interest, and the experience to represent you. As a teacher, I've been active in fighting for education and will continue to fight for public education. That's why I want to go to Austin to restore the funding cuts, to get rid of the high-stakes testing that really isn't helping our schools, but it's hurting our schools. I want to go ahead and make sure that we address the transportation problems that we're having, not by building toll roads, but not by diverting the money that we've been putting into gasoline taxes for years into other areas. I want to go ahead and serve the interests that represent your concerns. And I hope that on November 6th, you'll decide I'm the right person for you. You can visit my website, couragefortexassenate.org, to learn more, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Mr. Courage, what are your legislative priorities, and what bills do you want to introduce?
There are about 5 issues that I feel need to be addressed in the next session of the legislature. I already mentioned restoring funding to public education because it was $5.4 billion shortchanged in the last session. I've also told people that I want to fight for water, and we have a 50-year water plan that's never been funded by the state of Texas. It was drawn 17 years ago, and I think that we need to fund that. 17 years ago, it was going to cost $5 billion to implement that water plan for the whole state. Now it's going to cost $50 billion. We need to do something before it costs $100 billion. I want to go ahead and get rid of the high-stakes testing that we have. I want to go ahead and take a look at what we pay, or what many small businesses pay in a franchise tax, what we call a margins tax, because the margins tax passed in 2006 hasn't worked. It hasn't replaced the taxes that were cut. It hasn't funded public education as it's supposed to do. But it's also unfair to a lot of small businesses. There are small businesses that are making money and not paying a margins tax, and those who aren't making any money but have been. I also want to go ahead and address judicial elections. I'd like to see publicly funded elections for the judiciary from the Board of Appeal or the Courts of Appeals on up, because there's been too many concerns about fair and equitable hearings at those levels, because it's the lawyers who put money into those campaigns who show up in those courts asking for decisions in their favor. And finally, I want to really face the redistricting problems we've had in Texas for 30 years. We need to have an independent redistricting commission that gets the partisan politics out of drawing our lines, so that we get to choose who our legislators are instead of they start choosing who their constituents are. Thank you.
Dr. Campbell, what are your legislative priorities and what bills do you want to introduce?
Specifically, I don't know what bills, because I'd like to see fewer bills, less legislation. If we need it, yes. But what we don't want to do is grow government. There are a lot of issues that are impacting not just our district, but the state of Texas. Education has got to be a priority. I don't know how many of you out there are benefactors from public education, but I am. And we've got to drive dollars back to the classroom. You know, we've got to be able to turn out our graduates to be equipped to be members of society that can be independent and support themselves. We need to engage our students more. If that means adding VOTEC classes, but we need to try to decrease our dropout rate. You know, rather than throwing good money after a bad system, we need to fix the system. That's why all the variables need to be on the table. Let's find a way to introduce competition, have parent choice, give more teacher authority in the classroom, draw dollars back down into the classroom, decrease the bloated administrative. You know, before it used to be a 5-to-1 ratio, teacher, non-teacher. Now we're at 1-to-1. Our traffic, transportation, we've got to look at areas of congestion, and we have to address this. Transportation is not something we can kick the can down the road on anymore. We've got to stop diversion from Fund 6. That's a dedicated fund for highways. Some people want to increase the gas tax. I don't want to do that. First and foremost, let's look at the dollars going for bids in transportation. Let's look at tech stock goods if they're under new management. Let's look at stopping diversion of funds, and I believe in truth in taxation. So whatever we've got funds for that's been dedicated and we voted on, it needs to go to that. We have got Obamacare looming on the immediate horizon and a growing Medicaid. We've got to address that without dismantling the best health care in the world. Water is an issue that no longer can be ignored. But at the local level, and trying to balance that with economic development. You know, we've got to bring all this under a budget. When we don't bring it in under a budget, then Texas economy is not strong. And with a strong Texas economy, then everybody prospers. That's the principles I bring are conservative legislation. One, is it needed? Number two, what's it going to do to our families? What's it going to cost? What's it going to do to small businesses? Because if a small business is affected, so are we at our family level. That's what I want to try to do. I want to get in there and be the best conservative senator you've had in Texas history. Thank you.
Mr. Courage, what should Texas do to increase access? I'm sorry, let me try this again. Ms. Campbell, what should Texas do to increase access of its citizens to health insurance and care given the current dismal numbers of Texans who lack coverage?
Thank you. You know, health care is a concern on for all of us. Me as a physician, I'm the first to say that we need good health care. Everybody needs access to it. Right now, everybody has access, and they're coming through the emergency room, even for areas that are not emergent. So we need to see how we can drive those without insurance into clinics where they can still get excellent health care, but the dollars won't be as expensive. Looking at Obamacare, we've got the United States is huge. They've got one plan, one size fits all. That is not going to increase access. Many people will use the system because they can, but we don't have the providers yet, the physicians yet. There are going to be more doctors that retire, and what we don't want is to affect the quality of our care. The government, they've set up, it's a 15-member unelected panel to look at payment. They're a payment advisory board. They are tasked with where they can make cuts per capita in Medicare. That affects everybody over 65. We can't do that. We need a healthcare system that is more consumer-driven. The United States Congress could have allowed us to buy insurance across state lines. We cannot. Obamacare, a big portion of that is to expand Medicaid. That is destined, out of the HHSC here, it's estimated to cost us $27 billion. We cannot have Medicaid grow. Thank you.
Mr. Courage, what should Texas do to increase access of its citizens to health insurance and care?
What Texas needs to do is to go ahead and adopt the Affordable Care Act. Ms. Campbell, I think, is either misinformed or she's trying to misinform you, because the actual cost for bringing health care to Texas, and it was predicted by the Department of Health and Human Services, is only $7 billion over a 10-year period. But the amount of money that is destined to come to Texas is $119 billion over a 10-year period. As a matter of fact, there was a report in a paper, I believe it was yesterday, on an analysis that was done by one of our former state demographers who looked at healthcare, who said that the amount of healthcare that's going to come in will increase the healthcare provided to children and to seniors and to the disabled. It'll mean there'll be more clinics that'll be open, more facilities, more people working in the healthcare field, which also means that more people will be earning earning a living. $119 billion means a lot of jobs coming to Texas. And what he predicted over that 10-year period is that the money that's paid to those people in the expanded healthcare area, not even including giving the better healthcare to people, would go ahead and actually return more money to the state of Texas than it would be paying in its share of the Affordable Care Act. And so what we do need to do is provide for the health care for so many children. We actually have fewer children receiving health care in Texas today. The CHIPS program and others have been cut over the last 2 legislative sessions. And there are more seniors who are facing really financial catastrophe if they're in a nursing home or if they're in a long-term rehabilitation center. They almost cannot afford to stay in there. And some of them are having to impose greatly on their families. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of families in our district that face putting their children to college, maybe 1 or 2 children at a time, with a dramatically higher cost of public education, while taking care of senior family members who may be in a rehabilitation or a nursing home. And a lot of us are caught in a sandwich in between that. We've already cut money out of higher education, we've cut money out of health care. This is an opportunity for Texas to get back some of the money that it's been paying to the federal government. At a return of $119 billion in and $7 billion out, and many of that being recovered, it is a win-win process for the state of Texas. The problem is that you have a political football that's being a partisan issue by Donna Campbell and a lot of leaders in Texas. They'd rather have it go away because they don't want to admit that there might be a program that was developed by Democrats. Well, I don't care who developed it. It's a good program for Texas, our children, and our seniors.
Mr. Courage, how will your knowledge of the district help you to serve your constituents?
Well, I believe it's important for anyone who is going to represent people to really know that. And as I told you, I came to San Antonio 41 years ago to join the Air Force. And I served my country proudly in the United States Air Force. And when I got out, I stayed in San Antonio. I married a local woman. We had a family together. And as I said, I've worked here all these years. And I also said, you know, we've played here. We've been to Wimberley. As a matter of fact, my family and I were here in Wimberley about a month ago on a vacation. I know our community. I've gone to Worstfest, and I've gone to, Bernie market days, and of course the market days right here. I've enjoyed my life in this community for 40 years, but I've also experienced the highs and the lows. I've lived here through the droughts, and I've lived here through the floods. You all remember 10 or 11 years ago when Canyon Lake was overflowing, and there were people's homes that were actually flooded. I was shoveling mud out of a friend's house at that time. And I've understood the economics of our area. And I understand about transportation. I vigorously oppose toll roads over roads that we've already built and paid for. If we're going to build a toll road, then I think the local community should approve that. And I think that it should be one that's only there in areas that haven't been built before. And that if there's a toll, it should pay for the building of the road and maintenance, and then it should go away. We don't need forever tolls on our roads. But knowing all of the concerns that you have, I believe I can go to Austin and represent those interests for you. But I'm also a listener. I've listened to many of you in this room over the last 4 months. I didn't get in this campaign a year ago. I didn't get into it until I was concerned about what was happening in public education, to your schools and to my schools and to our children. And that, I think, should be something that each of you think about. I'm here for you, and I'll be here for you. I was here for you 40 years ago. I was here for you 5 years ago. I didn't just move into the district 1 year ago to run in this race. This is my community. You're my neighbors. I want to represent you in Austin.
Ms. Campbell, how will your knowledge of the district help you to serve your constituents?
Thank you. This race is about values. Look at the folks in Central Texas and here. We live in a very conservative district. So the best way, the best person to elect to be your senator is somebody who has values like you. What are my values? I believe in the United States Constitution, Texas sovereignty, our freedoms, the sanctity of life. I have the endorsement, not of a paper, but of people, of conservative groups. I've got the endorsement of Texas Right to Life, Texas Alliance for Life. I'm a fiscal conservative. As I said before, I believe that government needs to live within its means. So I believe in a limited government. I'm endorsed by the Texas for Fiscal Responsibility. I believe in personal accountability and responsibility. Nuclear family and marriage between one man and one woman. As I said, about education. I've been concerned about education for a long time. I did run for the United States Congress. I covered this area. So I didn't just get in this 4 months ago because I just became aware that I was concerned about education. I've been concerned about education for years. I've got 4 daughters. I am invested in public education. So nobody can be more passionate about than me. But parents need choice, and children and teachers in the classroom need more authority. Dollars are spent up here in the bureaucracy. They need to be driven to the classroom. And I know that. And I don't care if we're just right here in Dripping. That's the same message I hear across our district. And I've been in this district for the last year and a half or 2 years throughout the whole district, the last 4 in Hays County and Travis. I will be an effective senator, because with me comes the most conservative Senate in Texas history. I am passionate about our state. The special interest I have is you. That's why I am one of the best. Two good things I bring as a skill set as a physician to this Senate seat. One, I listen. Don't you want a doctor that listens to you? If the doctor doesn't listen, they get the wrong diagnosis and you don't get the care you need. And I am decisive. But you make a decision when you hear both sides. I've already been in this community talking to the mayor and the city manager. I am interested in finding out what's happening in our district because I want to impact those issues that affect us. Mom, family, doctors. So what affects our families? What affects our jobs? That's what I will do. Again, it's not about geography, it's about values. I have lived here constitutionally. I can be your senator and I need your support.
We want to thank both Mr. Courage and Ms. Campbell for appearing here and for answering our questions. And now we'll move on to State Representative, and I would like